First of all, thank you very much for being here, for joining us tonight. We're really glad to have so many members, of our community gathered here tonight. My name is Penelope, and I will be your mediator in this event. Soon I will introduce to you our guests. And to start with, we would like to ask you a quick question. So please answer to it on your screen. Okay? We would like to know, how long have you been part of the St. Nicholas community? Is it 1 year, 2 to 5 years, 6 to 10, or more than 10 years? While you're answering, I'm going to ask you to reflect a little bit about your journey during this time you have been part of our community. Nice. See, I'm not sure if everybody has access to the poll. Let's see. Great. A few more seconds for you to vote. Nice. Okay, 29 of 31. Okay, we can close the poll. Can we share that with everybody, please? Thank you, Ju. So, well, you can see that many of our families are with us from 2 to 5 years. The ones who are here now, some have joined us in the last year, some from 6 to 10 years, and many on more than 10 years. And if I had gone beyond that, we would probably have some of you being with us for 15 years, maybe 20 or more. So that's very, very good. And can I tell you, once you've joined our community, you automatically became a learner, because we believe that everyone in our community is a learner, and we are constantly learning from everything and everyone. And by sharing our experiences, we grow together as a learning community. So who are our panelists? I can tell you they are lifelong learners. But to be more specific, we have Priscila Saldanha, who is a mother in our community, Andressa Borsari, who is a lead learner, Beatriz Saldanha, who is a young learner, Andrea Amaral, who is an alumni. Thank you for being here with us tonight. And Juliana Marchiori, she will be taking your questions on the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. So throughout the whole webinar, if you feel like asking our panelists any questions, please type in there. And at the end of the session, Juliana will come back to us and she will bring your questions. And don't worry, if we don't have the time to answer to all of them, we will find a way to get the answer back to you. Okay, so thank you.
Thank you, Penelope. I'm going to stop my video and I'll meet you there in the Q&A, okay?
Yes,
see you
soon. Bye-bye. Okay, so why are we here today? Let me share with you the purpose of us being here tonight. So today we are celebrating different types of learning. And it all began with an informal conversation proposed by Priscila Saldanha, who told me a story. She told me her story as a mother and as a learner at St. Nicholas. And I couldn't keep that story to myself. We had to share it with as many people as we could. And that's why we're here today, because we know that we strengthen and deepen our learning when we share it with others. So today we will discuss how it is to be a learner at St. Nicholas, what this journey looks like for each one of our guests, and how it feels to be part of a learning community that grows together. Okay? So I'm going to start with Priscila, who will share her perspective on her journey as a learner and as a mother at St. Nicholas. So Pri, please.
Boa tarde, todo mundo. Muito obrigada, Penélope, pelo convite. Vou começar, acho que do final, dizendo que eu acho que você me convidou para esse webinário porque eu sou uma mãe muito crítica e depois eu vou falar um pouco sobre isso. Mas sempre que me perguntam sobre por que eu matriculei minhas filhas na St. Nicholas, eu começo dizendo que eu cheguei aqui com um dia para sair. Meu marido tinha uma forte convicção de que as escolas internacionais não preparavam bem os alunos para os vestibulares locais. Naquela época, nós não visualizávamos a oportunidade da Beatriz estudar fora do Brasil para a graduação. E ele mesmo dizia, não, a gente precisa de uma escola brasileira forte, que prepare mesmo se ela for estudar fora. Essa percepção foi piorando quando a gente chegou, porque a gente se deparou com uma metodologia diferente do que a gente conhecia, porque somos frutos de escolas tradicionais, que não tinha livro didático, os conteúdos fracionados, provas bimestrais, avaliações que podíamos ver, né? E o tempo foi passando, e nós víamos que sim, que ela estava aprendendo o conteúdo, e, além disso, ela estava desenvolvendo outras habilidades sociais e emocionais aqui na escola, através dos projetos coletivos que ela desenvolvia com os amigos, sentava em mesas redondas e não em mesas uma atrás da outra, e ela era ativa nesse processo de aprendizado, ao contrário das crianças que passam muito tempo ouvindo só os professores falando e pouco participam. Junto com isso, ela não queria nunca tirar férias, ela desenvolveu amor por aprender e ela se sentia parte da escola. E eu acho que não era nem só um sentimento de fazer parte, era de pertencer mesmo, né? E a mesma coisa aconteceu comigo, eu comecei a me sentir pertencendo à comunidade, comecei a fazer parte do PTA. Sempre que eu tinha problemas pessoais com ela, dentro da escola ou não, eu trazia para a escola e eu me sentia esse acolhimento para que me ajudassem a resolver esses problemas e eu como parte da solução. À medida que a gente foi se aproximando desse momento de saída, eu fui ficando mais angustiada, porque eu entendi que eu precisava entender como a escola funcionava antes de tomar essa decisão. Então, e também convencer meu marido, porque ele era mais ele estava mais longe do que eu nesse processo, ele queria tirar. E aí eu fui, aproveitando que a gente está numa pandemia, eu vou fazer uma analogia com a minha busca por essas informações através de evidências. Então, eu fui entender como funcionava o IB, a metodologia para o projeto, ao mesmo tempo que os jornais falavam muito da Finlândia, das avaliações internacionais, porque a Finlândia ia muito bem em relação ao resto do mundo, e olhando já para essas habilidades do século XXI. Quando eu descobri que a escola já fazia isso há muito tempo, né, há mais de 30 anos. Fui atrás, então, meu marido é professor universitário, então eu falei, eu preciso trazer evidências para ele, científicas, como se eu fosse a Anvisa hoje da vacina, né? Eu preciso trazer que isso funciona. E comecei a trazer para minha casa essas evidências, e de uma metodologia testada, que é reconhecida no mundo hoje, né? Que é o IB, que as escolas, as universidades reconhecem, as escolas aqui do Brasil, as universidades, as faculdades aqui no Brasil também começaram a reconhecer, e começamos então a conversar muito sobre isso em casa. E aí ele mesmo na escola que ele dá aula, ele vinha e falava, olha, agora eu vou ter que dar aula aqui nos professores da St. Nicholas, eu vou ter que fazer projeto, eu vou ter que falar menos, deixar meus alunos pesquisarem. E a gente então foi consolidando esse aprendizado. E eu acho que o nosso ponto, a nossa decisão veio a certeza de que esse era o caminho, quando a gente entendeu como que era essa metodologia, o que era o IB, o que significava. Quando a gente foi assistir, primeiro o processo da Beatriz no PYP, no último projeto, no trabalho, e quando a gente assistiu os amigos dela também apresentando. E naquele momento ele falou, olha, eu tenho alunos que não conseguem fazer um trabalho nessa profundidade já na universidade, né? E ficamos muito tranquilos que aqui, então, seria o lugar, e também por conta de uma formação sólida, acadêmica também. Eu quero deixar claro que a parte acadêmica é muito importante para mim, do conteúdo também. E eu sou uma mãe ansiosa, eu já passei pela fase de pensar que com 7 anos da Beatriz ela já estava na universidade, eu já sonhava. E nesse meu caminhar, eu entendi que eu tinha que ser humilde e também entender que não era eu a especialista em educação, não era eu a pessoa que conhecia o chão da escola, que conhecia os processos da escola, e que eu tinha que confiar, né, na escola, como eu confio a um médico, a um dentista, a outros profissionais que a gente escolhe no decorrer da vida. E eu acho que o que eu posso sugerir para as famílias é isso, né? A proximidade com a liderança, toda vez que aparecerem dúvidas, aparecerem qualquer coisa, né? Que a gente vai ter no caminho, e a gente tem o tempo inteiro, se aproxima, entende como funciona, pergunta. Isso foi muito importante para mim, essa aproximação. Eu sempre brinco que o Mr. Toad e o Mr. Rabanal, o Mr. Eagles, quando eles devem me ver chegando na escola para uma reunião, acho que eles falam, lá vem a Priscila de novo, em uma reunião. E quando eu brinco com vocês que eu comecei pelo final, é que eu sou uma mãe muito crítica, mas eu aprendi nessa minha trajetória a aprender, né? E eu até falei para a Penélope, isso não é fácil para as famílias, a gente vem de uma escola tradicional, a gente tem dificuldade de não ver o livro didático, de não pegar nesse conteúdo, e isso traz um pouco de insegurança, mas quando a gente lê, quando a gente estuda e quando a gente percebe que o mundo está caminhando para uma educação, que é quando a gente está falando isso aqui no Brasil ainda, de começar a caminhar para uma educação do século XXI, a escola já faz isso há muitos anos, com formação de professores, tudo aprendi com o Mr. Toad, com vocês, com o Mr. Eagles, e hoje eu estou muito tranquila da minha escolha e da trajetória das minhas filhas e da minha também. E do meu marido também, que precisou aprender, né? E voltar atrás e reconhecer que estávamos no caminho certo. Eu acho que é isso.
Muito bom, muito bom. Muito obrigada, Priscila. Thank you so much, assim, for sharing your story, for taking your time, for being here tonight with us. Thank you. And we will come back to you at the end of this conversation, because I think, there's more we can talk about. We'll come back with the questions, and I believe we can all engage on a conversation at the end, okay? So thank you very much. Now I would like to call Andressa Borsari, who will share her perspective as a lead learner in our community. So Andressa.
Hi, thank you. I'm very, very happy to be here and talk to everyone. I'll start saying that to me, learning is a process that leads to change, leads to transformation, to adaptability. And this is the story I'm going to tell you tonight. My story, how much I changed over these 9 years that I have been working at St. Nichols. To give you some context, some background information, and I really identified when Priscilla was speaking. I am a biologist. I have a master's and a doctor's degree in experimental psychology. So I am an academic, and this is part of who I am. I value knowledge. I value the scientific thinking. And so this is part of me, this scientific rigor as well. I have worked in other schools before, including other international schools. But when I started at St. Nicholas, things started to change, right? So when I started, I had 3 different roles. I was a science and a biology teacher, but I was also in the PL department, the personalized learning department, which meant I was used to being in the classroom to talk about my own subject, to share my passion for science with learners, But now I was in a different position. I was in a classroom that a different teacher was leading to help the learner with his or her learning. So I would be in maths, in history, in geography lessons, supporting the child, supporting learning, whatever learning it was. And I'm sure many parents connect, because that's what parents do at home, especially now during the pandemic, right? You support an individual who is there to learn. So that was a big shift in the center for me. The center was now the person in front of me, not the subject that I needed to teach. The other role I had was I was in global perspectives, which is different because there's no content in global perspectives. It's special because it's a group of teachers co-teaching. So it's interdisciplinary, no content to teach. We focus on the skills and we construct it together. And then it's completely different also, because we are creating something focusing on the skills for students together, to be in the classroom with other teachers. And that opened an opportunity for me to see the work of other teachers, to be collaborating with them. And that was very special. And then I got addicted to that feeling of having that collective experience. And I searched in every possible way to be with other teachers, learning from them and with them, and improving ourselves, transforming ourselves together. Because that was when I realized that we are more than the sum of the parts. We are the way we interact transforms the whole, transforms the system of the school. So I was in TOK, which is the IB, in the IB core, it's theory of knowledge. And then we learn and we share with students how knowledge is produced in each area, to have the mankind knowledge, right? All the knowledge that exists, how is it produced? And then I worked with many secondary teachers. I am now in the 4 peaks. 4 peaks is like 10 adults and 36 kids this year. Hopefully next year we're gonna have the grade 5s, the current grade 5s joining us. So in that environment, we are not teachers, we are facilitators, right? So we are learning first facilitators. Everybody in the room is a learner. So that's a new experience. I think St. Nicholas really encourages that kind of collective experience. We do that in many different ways. We had the mission group that discussed the mission of the school. We had the beta group, in which the secondary teachers got together to discuss different curricula, how they were different, which would be best for us, what parts we could use to really create something that would be meaningful to our community, to the students that we have. We also have some courses, so the Latin American Heads Conference and the Learn Fest, where a lot of educators from Latin American countries got together to discuss the future of education, what's going to happen, how we want to transform it. So it's a lot of work involved. And teachers, by definition, are learners. Teachers like to learn. This is why we become teachers, right? And we like to learn together, and we like to learn with the children as well. We also have something spontaneous that happens. Sometimes we had, like last year, we had a book club. So we read books about education together in our own time. We discuss it. Now there is a well-being group. So many different opportunities to go beyond your faculty and your discipline and engage and learn and transform each other. There were also the PLCs. So PLCs are professional learning communities, and then teachers or lead learners choose the areas they would like to investigate more. I have been in an interdisciplinary learning group and a group about beliefs about learning. So that was super interesting. I have now a new experience because I am a mom. right? And I have two boys. I have a boy that is now in grade 1 and one that entered St. Nicholas during the pandemic in kindergarten 1. And that opened a completely new horizon for me at St. Nicholas, because now I am part of every section of the school. So not anymore only secondary. So we had so beautiful, like beautiful experiences. We took the microscopes to the kindergarten 1 so kids could look at cells. Last year, we put together the year 7s with the kindergarten 2s so they learn about insects together. So it's amazing. During the pandemic, that's the the last transformation I would like to talk about, to be a lead learner and a mother during the pandemic, right? It's amazing because as a mom, I can see all the work that the lead learners in early years and primary are doing, right? Because as a secondary teacher, I know what we do in the secondary, but in primary and early years, it's just amazing. Our ability to adapt, to be flexible, to react fast to challenges, it's super amazing. I'm so proud as a mom to see how much my boys have developed and their growth. And as a teacher or a lead learner during the pandemic, it's been such a challenge, right? It's sometimes it's like 3 devices at the same time at home. I'm with my learners, my boys having their own lessons. And it's cooking, it's cleaning, and I know many parents are in the same situation at home. So it's a new learning experience for all of us that's also transforming us. I'm looking forward to what's coming next. I know the future will bring so many learning opportunities and so many transformation opportunities for all of us. And that's a little bit of the story. I'm really grateful to be in a place that encourages people to meet, to trust, to admire each other, and to learn from one another. Thank you. I'm looking forward to hearing to Beatriz and André now.
Lovely, lovely. Thank you very much, Andressa, for sharing your story, your perspective as a lead learner and a mother now, especially during the pandemic. Yes, it is very unique. Your journey has been very unique. Thank you. And now I'm going to call Beatriz Saldanha, which, by the way, is Priscilla's daughter, for those who do not know that. And a curious fact is when I was looking for a learner to join us in this webinar, I asked for a recommendation, and without knowing about the other guests, Beatriz was recommended to speak on behalf of the other learners. So now you will have the chance to listen to another member of the Saldanha's family, and let's see if they have the same perspective about learning or not. So, Bia, please.
So I've been a student at Nichols for nearly 12 years now. So I first came to school in nursery, and now I'm finishing year 10. So this means that I've gone through PYP, just partly finished at GCSE because we didn't do our exams, but and I will be starting the IB soon. And honestly, like looking back, I couldn't ask for a better learning environment to navigate through each of these steps. My primary school memories, they all hold a very important place in my heart. Each unit led to incredible experiences, and I seem to remember every single one of them until today. I recall navigating my interest for history through Egyptian hieroglyphs, developing my research skills via group projects about Arctic animals, and learning to be empathetic during the unit about different religions and cultures, where we visited temples and religious communities. And for each one of these units, we would have assemblies and learn to share achievements and learning with others, in which calling Mr. Eagles was like the best honor we could ever have. And to close off my PAP experience, we had the exhibition. And even 4 years later, I'm still certain that it had a tremendous impact on who I am today, and especially on my relationship with learning. It was the first time I was able to choose a topic to be passionate about, this being gender equality. And until today, I find myself quoting excerpts I used for my research about the topic, and I'm still loyal to many of the statistics I found to counter the to counter the obnoxious comments regarding sexism and how there's no point in battling gender equality anymore that I hear until today. And then came secondary school, and that was like a whole other story. It was time to interact with the big kids, the students that we were scared to pass through during break time because they were too tall. But it was also where I met my tutor group, where the year 10s at the time helped me with my classrooms, and Ms. Oppenheimer gave me and the other year 7s the warmest welcome possible. From year 7 to today, my peers and I learned to navigate through the new content, finishing group work with students that learn to have strong opinions of their own, overcoming bad grades, and dealing with a much bigger variety of teachers and many other obstacles that were completely new to us at the time. I won't lie, like these 4 years have had their challenges, not only academically, but I never felt as if there wasn't someone there to support me. Every single one of my struggles were backed up by a teacher that was there to push me through it. And there were always older students that were willing to give me advice. And obviously, my friendships that I established in the school also allowed me to find security into Nichols. I find that it doesn't matter how many times I made mistakes in the past. I will never lose my value to anyone within the school. And this has made the total difference on how I approach my learning. Over the years, the encouragement has always been there, and it plays a huge role in the student and person I have become today. It's extremely rewarding to look back at my year 7 self that was scared of participating in bigger discussions and know that today I'm able to take a very significant role in the student council besides students from each year group, and have become a pretty good public speaker, which was something I really struggled with. I see that a majority of my learning has been extremely deep in the sense that there was always an experience behind each of its stages, making every level of academic and social development unforgettable. Today, I look at the IB, the next significant change in my learning process, and even though I get anxious about the work, I know that I have people that know me and have been there for me before, beside me for whatever I need. This way, the anxiety and the uncertainty of change lessens and becomes rather positive. Now, I see that learning has become something I deeply enjoy and look forward to. I owe this not only to myself and my family, but also to the stability I was able to gain as a learner at St. Nicholas. This is something I hold dearly, and it's exactly what my younger primary school self dreamed of achieving. And I think that all of you here will agree that knowing that you have the resources and the willpower to achieve your dreams is always a marvelous feeling. I know that my experience is not exactly the same as everyone else's, but I'm sure that St. Nicholas gives the possibility for each student to find themselves and personalize their path in the school just as I did. The process of adapting to online learning, for example, really expressed this. Every step we took, every change we had to go through was closely discussed between students and faculty, mainly through the student council. And this way we were able to regain the connection between students and teachers and have kept all of our concerns relevant. Since I'm little, I have been able to visualize my learning in an amazingly fun and clear way. I learned to understand, question, and explore the world around me, which has taught me to dream and really translates into my life outside school. St. Nick's is a part of who I am, and I really see this school as a family, where everyone is welcomed with open arms and is given the opportunity to rise. Thank you.
Wow, Bia. Lots of elements in your journey. Yeah, thank you very much for that. And if I may ask you, when you were younger, I remember when we had our conversation before this webinar started, like you were telling me about your expectations about learning when you were younger. And now as you've grown, how does that look like to you when you look back, when you think when you were little and now being like a secondary student, how does that feel? Did your expectations meet like your own ideals? What do you think?
I think they exceeded my own ideals. I remember looking at like other students, and wanting to have like mainly their confidence like with what they knew and what they learned, and it's something that I have really been reminded of by my teachers throughout the process of secondary school. And I feel as if, especially at the end of this year, I've gotten to a stage in which like I'm really proud of the not even of where I am today, but of the process that got me to where I am now, because I believe that we're always learning and we're always evolving and getting better. So that's what I wanted to do when I was little, continue to have the strength and the willpower to continue learning, continue exploring the world, which is something that I find that is all around me. So yeah, that's it.
Nice. Thank you very much. Thank you again. Yes, for sharing your story, your perspective as a learner in our community. And last but not least, let's listen to André, who will let us know about his journey as a learner at St. Nicholas and how life is after St. Nicholas. Então, vamos lá. Let's go, André.
Thank you, Penelope. So actually this, hello everyone, good afternoon. This invitation to this webinar came at a very interesting time in my journey as a learner, because I'm talking to you from Washington, D.C., where I go to university at Georgetown University. And I'm actually graduating this weekend after 4 years. And so this was a very special time to actually reflect a little bit about my journey as a learner, because it's coming to an end, at least the first part of it. I will be starting work here in DC in 2 months. So I think, of course, we learn throughout our life, but my journey as a formal learner on paper, at least for now, will be ending. So it was an interesting time to think about it. And actually, my time at St. Nicholas, I joined St. Nicholas in year 8, actually halfway through year 8. So also an interesting time to join, because I was moving from Australia, where I lived with my family, and the academic calendar was different. So I finished year 7 and then entered halfway through year 8 at St. Nicholas. So I started there. And actually, that time was very important in defining the rest of my journey as a learner, and defining where I ended up here and how. So thinking about my time at St. Nicholas, I think that one word or one set of words that I think is important is you have to, in life and as a learner, always take advantage of opportunities that are given to you. And I think I was fortunate enough to be at a place where I was always given a lot of opportunities that I could seize and that could aid me in my learning. So of course, I think exams are important and reading is important and textbooks are important. And that's an important part of learning, of course, because you have to learn content and you have to do your IB exams. And of course, it didn't feel like that at the time. But today, I actually, looking back, I enjoyed a lot of the IB process. But there's another side of learning, which is outside of all those things. And that's what ended up shaping what I study and where I am today. So I joined St. Nicholas in 2012. And for those of you who are Brazilians or were in Brazil at the time, know that starting in 2013 and maybe even through today, it's been very tumultuous politics. We've had big protests in the street, corruption scandals, impeachment, and that really affected me. And I was always, from when I was little, thought that I was going to study science and technology or something in STEM. But as I was living through that moment of huge protests, corruption scandals, I just became super interested in politics and what was going on in government. At the same time, in my classes, I was learning about global inequality, the problems that face the world, that different communities have to face, that were not a part of my life, but that are a part of the life of many other people in the world. So there was a connection between the content I was learning, the developments in the real world that I was seeing outside the school. And then in the school, there were opportunities to do, like BI was also in the student council, so we did community service projects. We went to Paraisópolis to teach English at a community center. So we saw how those people, how their life experience was, the opportunities that they had and didn't have, and the desire for more opportunities that they had because they came to us to learn English because they wanted to understand the world, they wanted to have that tool for their jobs. In the school also, the fact that St. Nicholas is a small community, you get to be friends with all the staff, the security guards, the kitchen staff, and that I became really close with a lot of those people. They became friends, and talking to them about how their life was, what problems did they have. For my geography class, once we did a questionnaire about public transportation, and I learned that the person who was my friend was a Sodexo kitchen staff. She had to spend 3 hours on the bus to go to school and 3 hours on the bus to go back home. So basically 6 hours of her day on the transport. I lived 10 minutes from the school, and when there was traffic, I took 15 minutes. I always thought that was horrible and that was the end of the world. So it was quite a shock. And why? Because the system is inefficient, because there's traffic, because the housing is really expensive. And so that connected with the content I was learning in school. At the same time, I was going to the protest against the corruption in Brazil. And I was like, well, if the government was better, maybe they could fix this problem and this person didn't have to spend 6 hours on the bus. And all these things, learning in the textbook, learning from the people who were in the community around me, learning from the community service, learning from the environment that the school was in, kind of came together. And I realized, well, I still think science is really cool and interesting, but what I really want to do is study politics and international relations and how these systems work, so that maybe one day I can change them. And that happened throughout my time. And I graduated in 2016. And I took a year because I also wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And during that year is when I really came to those realizations that I just mentioned. And through the year, many of you will remember Mr. Hagar, who was the pastoral leader of the secondary school, and he still helped me do my applications, talk about what I wanted to do. I actually worked at the school for a few months as well, so I was involved in a different capacity. And then I realized that I wanted to come here. And coming to university, it's very similar. You have a lot of opportunities. You don't necessarily have people who are on top of you all the time. You should do this, you should do that. You have everything available to you. But I came from a place where I learned the value of taking advantage of opportunities that are offered to you in terms of work experience, research, getting to know people and their perspectives. So really my time there was central in shaping where I ended up today. Yeah, I think that's, I'll end my remarks with that.
Well, André, thank you. Thank you for sharing your story as well with us. And yes, we can tell that there is life after St. Nicholas, right? Where you are right now, you're graduating this weekend. Well, congratulations for that. We're really happy, to hear that. And yes, and life is full of nice surprises, as you were mentioning to us, and opportunities for you to apply all you have learned. So thank you for sharing that. And well, now I'm gonna call, let's call Juliana back. And let's see if she has any questions from the audience. Ju, what do you have for us?
Well, there aren't many questions. Actually, I've got one, and I have to say that I can imagine why we don't have many questions, because I think people might be enjoying this conversation as much as I have. What a lovely conversation. Thank you so much for coming tonight and sharing your perspectives as members of our community. But this question is specific to Priscilla. Priscilla, as a mom who's been with us for quite a long time, what tips you could give to parents on how they could engage and be active members in our community? How can they really participate in their child's school life? Do you have any tips?
Olha, essa Nichols é uma escola de portas abertas, né? Eu acho que chegar na escola e já encontrar a liderança na porta já é algo que não é usual. E sempre se informar, vir buscar informações, quando tiver qualquer problema, falar com a professora, falar com as lideranças. Eu aprendi muito fazendo isso. Né, Mr. Todd uma vez me disse uma frase que ficou para sempre para mim. Ele falou: olha, o meu papel aqui é estudar e trazer todas as práticas que estão sendo, que o mundo olha como, né, o que tem mais de moderno para dentro da escola. Esse é meu papel, então você fique tranquila que não tem nada que escapa aos meus olhos e dos meus líderes. Eu acho que tem outras formas também, que são participar da essa festa junina, International Day. Eu sempre senti que as minhas filhas tinham muito orgulho de me ver nesses né, eu lá no International Day da Barraca do Brasil, que eu já fiz. E todas as vezes que elas me viam, até em reuniões, né, com os professores, elas gostavam elas gostam, né, Bia, ainda de saber que eu participo. Porque eu acho que quanto mais informação a gente tem, e informação eu acho que aonde a gente tem que buscar, né? Não no, porque as pessoas acham muito, a gente escuta muito, a gente lê, a gente tem internet, é muita informação. Então, para a gente não achar errado e para a gente ficar mais próximos dos nossos filhos, a melhor maneira é essa aproximação com a escola, né? E eu nunca tive essa dificuldade, porque eu acho que a escola é muito aberta para isso, eu sempre me senti ouvida, em todas as, como eu falei no começo, eu sempre fui muito crítica e uma mãe ansiosa, e a escola sempre me acalmou, e aprendi também que a educação, a jornada das minhas filhas não é uma corrida de 100 metros, é uma maratona, isso requer tempo, eu precisava também entender o tempo delas e ter calma de que tudo ia acontecer, estava tudo bem, e confiar, né? Eu acho que também é importante. Então, a gente participa aqui como pais, né, dessa maneira, assim, nos aproximando e perguntando também para os professores o que a gente pode fazer. Eu aprendi muito. Quando eu cheguei na Nichols, uma das coisas mais legais que eu aprendi, eu lembrei agora, foi em uma das assemblies, a Laura, quando ela era head aqui, em Pinheiros, ela falou assim para todo mundo, era fim de ano, né, próximo do Natal, ela falou, o que vocês vão fazer nas férias, né? Aí as crianças foram respondendo, aí ela falou, olha, eu vou agora com os meus filhos na livraria e nós vamos comprar os livros das férias. E todas as férias a gente faz isso. E meus filhos, eles leem muito, eles adoram ler. E ela começou a falar sobre literatura, sobre a importância de ler. E a partir daquele dia eu saí da escola, levei a Bia na Saraiva do Shopping Eldorado e todas as nossas férias a gente escolhe os livros. E isso me ajudou muito que ela se tornasse a leitora que ela é hoje. Bia escreve textos em inglês e em português que eu não consigo escrever. Então não é porque ela está aqui hoje, mas eu tenho o maior orgulho acho que desse aprendizado de ter e de escutar, né? Como é que eu poderia fazer para ajudá-la no processo? Porque ninguém nasce gostando de ler, ninguém nasce gostando de aprender, né? E esse amor pelo aprendizado também foi algo que a gente aprendeu na escola, até a minha visão, né? A minha visão de não é a prova, não é a avaliação, não é a prova bimestral que ia trazer para ela o conhecimento, né? Era um processo. E esse processo se passava muito mais por ela ser ativa no aprendizado, para ela pesquisar, participar, trocar com os amigos e essa experiência do que ela fazer prova. Então, uma série de outras coisas que a gente foi aprendendo que eu poderia ficar horas aqui falando, mas a Laura foi uma boa lembrança assim, do meu começo na escola. Então, se ela estiver me ouvindo, eu queria até agradecê-la, porque eu não sei se eu vou ter oportunidade, mas é isso.
Thank you so much, Priscilla. It's inspiring to hear your story as a learner. And talking about learner, Bia, could you talk to us about a different role that you have in our community in the student council? What do you do in the student council and how this experience has helped you grow, please?
Okay, so I remember when I started secondary school, the student council was always open to me participating, but and Ms. Oppenheimer, which is my tutor, she's very active, so she organizes a lot in the student council. She always invited me, like, yeah, try coming, but I was like, well, no, I can't, because I was actually scared. Like, I was scared of dealing with other students, older students, and I was scared of that my voice wouldn't be heard. But when the pandemic hit us and we started online learning, I found that I had a bit more time in my hands. And when Ms. Oppenheimer mentioned the student council again, I was like, okay, this year I'm gonna participate. And we changed a lot in the structure of how the council worked. So we abolished any type of hierarchy in the student council. So we don't have a president, we don't have any specific roles. It's just everyone coming together, and we bring our main concerns, our ideas, any of our plans of anything we want to implement in the school, what we think is missing, what we think is working. And through the past year that I've been a part of the student council, we have been able to not only create a very close relationship with Mr. Thodi regarding like any school procedures. So for example, the timetable. For the 35% timetable, we actually helped design it. We were constantly making some surveys, talking to the students to get feedback about what they were feeling doing online learning. And then now we're going to be we want to plan the end of year assemblies, take a big part on that to make them more personalized to the students, to make them more approachable. So we can basically bring anything we'd like, and we're always said as long as we have the autonomy to go after our plans and actually put them into practice, there's no limit to what the student council can do, as long as we're doing it thinking of the student community as a whole. And I find that it's one of the greatest tools we have to bring the school together, to enhance our learning experience. And I think that it has also helped me personally take take a position in the school in which I'm not only looking at myself and what I may be struggling with, but also to others and what we can do to help our peers, which is something that always ends up helping us, because when we have everyone happy or everyone trying to achieve a place where they're happy in their learning experience, the morale, it gets up, especially in difficult times, and everyone is able to enjoy learning much more. So I think the student council has gave me the opportunity to make that happen, and I really enjoy being a part of this.
Well, Bia, you just mentioned like voice, choice, and ownership, that all these elements happen while you are there interacting with the student council within this role. And if I'm not wrong, Andre, when you were at St. Nicholas, you were part of the student council as well, right? Was that like a similar experience to you? How did it feel? I think you mentioned something, before to us here in your speech, but if you would like to bring, I don't know, maybe any additional fact to that.
Yeah, no, student council was one of my favorite things at St. Nicholas. Back in my day, I was president. At one point, we had officers. I think it changed a little bit now. Maybe it's a little bit more progressive now than it used to be. But I started only as a representative, and then I became the vice president and then president. So there was actually a big process about, I had to run in an election. I had to convince my constituency to vote for me, and then I had to learn to listen to what the students wanted. Sometimes it was things that we could never do, like get rid of the swimming lessons, because for some reason everyone hated the swimming lessons. I still don't understand why. Of course, we couldn't do that. Other times it was things that we could actually do, but it was actually very interesting because it was a microcosm of what actually happens in the world happening in the school. And for me, taking leadership roles was always very special, and something that I think I learned a lot about life from, honestly.
Thank you.
Just
sure.
add a bit about very fast. Just add a bit more about like the change that happened to student council, because like after Andres like explained about like when we had a president and everything. Yeah, before it was very different than the student council is today. And I personally think I would have enjoyed, like, for example, having this process of getting up, like getting to be president. But in the end, I think that now we still have these roles within the council, but they're less obvious. And I think it's also very nice because it gives opportunity to all the students to be the leader sometimes, like on something I can take a bigger role, on something else it can be another student. So it's something that if any parents are listening, I always encourage every student to, if they're interested to take a part in, because it's as Andres said, like you learn a lot alone, and with others in the student council.
Thank you. And thinking about leadership, Andrea, did you join MUN at your times? Because Bia mentioned the MUN, would like to describe what this is about and how this helped you as you left St. Nicholas and how this helped you in your studies at Washington. And then another question for you, Andrea, is what do you mostly miss about your life at St. Nicholas?
Good questions. Yeah, I did do MUN. MUN is Model United Nations, is a simulation of things that actually happen in the United Nations, very popular with schools in many parts of the world. And MUN was one of my other favorite things. Besides, you can see I was a complete nerd. So my favorite thing, Student Council, MUN, anyway. And MUN also teaches you a lot about, it also was vital in helping me decide that I wanted to study politics. People complain that politics is only about talking and not getting things done. But in MUN, you actually have a bunch of eager, kind of idealistic students who actually want to get things done, but they have different ideas. And you have debates, and people think that the solution is one, and you think the solution is another. And it teaches you to speak, because you have to defend your position. It teaches you to think about how you can incorporate someone else's ideas and why that may be better or maybe worse than your idea. It teaches you to write, because you have to, and collaborate, because you have to come up with a document at the end with what you're actually going to do. And it gives you hope that maybe it's possible to get things done in consensus with everyone. It's also a lot of fun, because we used to get to travel to places and stuff like that. So all those things, you know, that I said, my journey as a learner was a bunch of different parts. All those things played a very important part in that set. So if I encourage also, it sounds boring and it's for nerds, but it's really not. It's a lot of fun, and you learn a lot. So the second question, that's a hard question. I think the students will think I'm crazy. One thing I miss a lot is the food, because it's actually Brazilian food, and the food here at university in the United States is much worse. So appreciate the lunch food. But actually, the thing I miss the most is the people. I made such good friends in the teachers and the staff, my friends, of course, who scattered all over the world. But I just going in every day, smiling, saying hi to everyone, in that kind of environment is something that I think I miss the most.
Thank you, Andrea. And that was very clear in your the first thing that you mentioned about your life at St. Nicholas. You spoke about how your interactions with different members of the community supported your learning, how you found bigger purpose for your learning as you engaged with different people from staff. So thank you for highlighting all these important members, all these important members of our community, because everyone is a learner and everyone here supports the learning. And then Andressa, last but not least, if you can help us answer the last question, which is a very important one as well. As a lead learner, as a lifelong learner, and as a mother, how do you think, what would you say, what kinds of hints or suggestions would you give to a mother about how to support a 10-year-old child to really embark on the learning journey at St. Nicholas?
Okay, that's a very hard question, but maybe not very complex. I will apologize because my dogs are barking next to me and you might hear some noise. Okay? But I think it's to nurture the possibility to learn and to go deeper into her own interests. I think she will fall in love with learning if she has the opportunity to learn more about what she loves, right? So it's a cycle. You will love more the things that you learn because you love them, right? So as a mom, I would nurture every interest, because you never know where that interest might take your child, right? So just encourage and nurture that passion, that little spark. And I think at St. Nicholas we open up those things for children to pursue. So I hope I was able to contribute a tiny bit to having an insight into that question.
Thank you. And you are just speaking about the core of our purpose, right? This passion for learning. That's very important. Well, one last question came up now. Do we still have time for one more?
Yeah, I think one more. Yeah.
All right. That's for you, Priscilla. Do you believe that there should be more activities for parents at St. Nicholas?
Eu acho que eu gostaria de dizer, na verdade, para os pais assim que a melhor forma de você aprender sobre é esse caminho do aprendizado dos filhos, e participar é conhecer e aprender sobre a metodologia da escola, sobre o IB, sobre o que a escola faz, porque eu falei, isso tudo começou, Ju, por conta da Penélope, numa conversa minha com a Penélope, que eu falei para ela que eu achava muito difícil para a gente entender. Né? De novo, nós somos frutos de escolas tradicionais, então não é muito simples. Assim, eu tinha até com o português, imagina, eu falava, meu Deus, a menina vai falar casa com Z, não vai conseguir escrever porque é inglês, como vai ser isso português? E eu até vejo o português, né, contei para a Penélope, muito diferente do departamento de quando eu cheguei há 12 anos atrás, e hoje com a Helena, que eu tenho uma filha no Grade 2, um departamento muito mais robusto, muito mais estruturado, e eu acho que a maneira que a gente pode fazer e contribuir com os nossos filhos é aprendendo sobre como eles aprendem, e aí, nesse processo, trazer para dentro de casa essa conversa com os professores. Eu aprendi muito com os professores, eu sou grata a cada um deles que fez parte dessa trajetória. Todos me tranquilizaram de novo. Eu sou uma mãe muito ansiosa, então, assim, vários pegaram na minha mão, calma, vai dar certo, e vocês estão vendo hoje que tem dado certo, a Bia está aqui, e é isso, buscar informação onde a gente tem que buscar, que é na escola, né? Não é achando, não é... Às vezes os grupos de WhatsApp também, um monte de gente falando, também porque a vida é difícil, é dura, a gente não tem tempo para fazer isso, né? Todo mundo trabalhando, então essa proximidade com a escola não é sempre muito simples, porque a gente não tem tempo simplesmente para fazer, então isso requer uma dedicação, mas ela vale a pena. Ela vale a pena porque a criança se sente feliz de ver a gente mais próximos, porque a gente entendendo mais, a gente também compreende e acalma o coração. E hoje eu sou uma pessoa mais calma, mais tranquila, da minha escolha, eu e meu marido, da escola, e acho que isso é o que eu posso dizer, assim, porque às vezes eu falo para as minhas amigas, principalmente do grupo do Grade 2, que são os pais mais jovens, eu falo, gente, dá certo, fiquem tranquilos, está tudo bem, tem tanta coisa bacana para olhar para a escola, o currículo é tão bacana, né? Eles adoram aprender, adoram ir. A Bia nunca quis tirar férias, né? Ela saía do NR chorando porque ela não queria ir para casa, ela queria ir para a escola. E eu não via isso com os meus sobrinhos, assim, nem com os filhos dos meus amigos. A Bia também acabou inspirando os filhos de muitos amigos meus, que são acadêmicos, quer me esboçar e vai gostar. Todos dão aula em universidade, acadêmicos, todo mundo PhD, já dando aula lá fora, e todo mundo, nossa, mas como que a Bia adora tanta escola e toca piano e violino e escreve, fala 3 idiomas, e né, as coisas estão acontecendo. E eu falava, porque ela gosta muito de aprender, e isso faz toda a diferença, porque se ela não estiver muito entusiasmada, você pode fazer o que for e não vai aprender. Até eu tenho um amigo que é uma curiosidade aqui, que ele é do board da Sala São Paulo, e uma vez ele falou, mas como que ela toca violino assim? Não é possível, porque imagina, ele roda o mundo para assistir as orquestras, e ele nunca conseguiu fazer um filho estudar música. Aí eu falava para ele, é porque lá ela tem um ambiente musical, os amigos tocam, ali é um ambiente onde ela aprendeu a amar a música. E às vezes a gente olha para ela, a gente não acredita, porque às vezes uma vez a minha irmã falou: mas vocês tocam? Eu falei: zero. A gente não toca nem aquele chacoalho de danoninho, né? Nada. E isso eu devo à escola, porque esse ambiente não foi da minha família, né? Foi aí que ela desenvolveu. Então, eu poderia ficar horas aqui, gente. Então, assim, e ver esse caminhar, né? Olhar para ela e ver ela desenvolvendo acabou sendo uma inspiração para tantos amigos meus que foram quebraram essa coisa da escola brasileira forte para o vestibular, para o Enem, para procurar outras habilidades, outras coisas, um currículo muito mais amplo, né? Que faria o potencial para chegar numa universidade de primeira linha, que, como o André falou, nós somos muito privilegiados, fazemos parte de uma elite que, às vezes, a gente não se dá conta da oportunidade que a gente tem em dar para os nossos filhos uma escola com um currículo tão interessante. Né? Então, nessa minha trajetória também eu aprendi a ser humilde e agradecer sempre a essa oportunidade que eu tenho e meu marido tem, da gente poder proporcionar uma escola tão interessante, né?
Great.
Eu acho que é essa a minha...
Nossa, muito obrigada, Priscila, né, for your contribution. I guess, Bia, you have your hands up, like, would you like to share something, and then we will wrap up this session, because yes, we're like over a few minutes, but go ahead, Bia.
I'm going to be very brief, Miss. It's just about
No, go ahead.
Just to give another perspective to everything my mom said. I think that parents' involvement in the learning of like their kids. I think from what my mom said, you can see that she has always been very present and always like being very communicative with me about everything that I'm learning. And I think that St. Nick's already gives a lot of space for parents to participate, to understand, because we're constantly doing so much. So I think that if you want to learn more and understand more what your children are going through and how we're learning, just start a conversation and show interest, because I think that that's something my parents always did with me, and it has always been very motivating to know that they wanted to learn about what I was learning too, which is very gratifying.
Wow. What else can I say? Yes, we could stay here for hours. So for sure, we'll be planning, more of this, because this is a talk that comes from the heart. For sure, I have to thank each one of you for being here tonight. Thank you very much. Thank you, all the participants who have joined us tonight. We know that each one of you have a story to tell, and we hope that you also enjoyed listening to our guests. Talking about stories, that's what makes us special. That's what makes our journey unique. And again, talking about stories, if you haven't watched Dona Ana's video, Mrs. Kirsten's, the founder of the school, video talking about her journey building our St. Nicholas community, please do so. You can find it in YouTube.